Hey y'all, welcome back to the Laidback Homestead. I'm Crystal and today is up potting day. I started probably close to 300 plants and I'm very fortunate that a lot of things have come up. I am still dealing with pepper drama, but we have a ton of tomatoes and everybody needs to get into their final planting cup, if you will, before they will go out into the yard. So I like to grow my tomatoes and my peppers up in my version of the double cup method. And if you're not familiar with the double cup method, I will show you what that is. It's basically a cup with no holes at the bottom, a rock, and then your plant cup with holes at the bottom, as you can see it's dripping, sits on top of the rock. And that leaves a nice little reservoir at the bottom. Now, this method works great, and you can see it catches any water that drips out of your cup. You get to water less often using this method. The problem with this method is you can see when you have this many seedlings, this can be very hard to move around. Now, I love the double cup method. I've grown that way for years. The issue I always run into is when it's time to start hardening off my plants, I have to take everything that I'm growing out of the greenhouse, move it to the table that's outside, and then every afternoon, move everything back. Because as I'm trying to harden off my tomatoes and peppers, our nighttime temperatures are typically too low for me to just leave them out on the table. With the double cup method and someone my size, I was only able to carry 4 cups at a time. So the hardening off process became really just too much. And so we were looking into different ways of me being able to move my plants around. We tried different trays. We tried cafeteria trays, anything, I was a waitress at one point, but nobody wants to carry around trays that are that shallow with these cups on it, because ultimately, you trip over something, you bump something, and then you've got a cup tip over. It took very little for a cup to fall off of one of those thinner trays. So my husband eventually found these trays on Amazon. And in a perfect world, if I was growing in something smaller than a red solo cup, I'd be able to use all of the spaces in here. But because I didn't want to have to buy all new things, all new equipment to grow in here, I like to reuse. I've been growing in these same red cups. This is probably year 3 to 5, depending on the cup. I only replace them when I have to. So until these all eventually break, I'm going to keep using them in this fashion. But this works well. This is a deeper tray. I can carry 10 plants at a time when I need to move them around. And this tray simulates the double cup method. And I'll show you what I mean by that. So without having to use rocks, these cups actually sit up on a little lip that is inside of here. If you can see in there, there is a little bit of a lip and a little reservoir. And the cups sit on that lip, and I can pour water in here, and it will go all around the tray, and they will have a little pocket of water available for all of my plants. So these I up potted yesterday, and you can see there's water sitting in the base of these little wells. And that way I know, just a quick look at it, that this tray has enough water and the plants can access what they need. Now, when they're this little, you do have to water from the top, because I literally just transplanted these yesterday. This guy's got a little shot going on with him, but you water them from the top for probably the first couple of days, but eventually their roots will very quickly find their way to the bottom. Not to mention there is holes, there is soil, so it is making contact, and the soil can absorb some of that liquid up as well. Hopefully the camera can pick this up, but you can see the yellowing starting to occur here, which means basically I waited too long to do this. These are probably a couple days past their prime. And even though I've been giving them some diluted fish emulsion fertilizer, it's just way too small of a vessel. You can see there, they really just need to get out of here. I went around, made up the labels for everybody I'm taking out, used my little dibber, put a hole in here, and now I just start plucking out who is going to be moving on. This is when it gets to be really time consuming. I suggest you listen to music or podcast even would be helpful. I'm not taking everybody out of here simply because I don't really think I'm going to have enough space for everybody, if I'm just being honest with myself. So I'm going to take the healthiest ones that I can find and pot those first. And whatever I have left over, if I have room for them, awesome. I will go and just make more cups for them. If I don't, this is when I try to start giving things away. Nice, healthy roots. Nice white, healthy roots. I do plant them pretty deep. I just find that helps give them sturdier stems before they get transplanted out into their final place in the yard. Now, I do find these come out of their trays a little easier the drier the soil is. My soil is a little wet, but it's not super wet. So these should come out pretty easy today. You may be wondering, why don't you just start in cups? And you certainly can. I don't, because I never know what my germination rates are going to be. I use seeds from years ago, and I hate the thought of having space in my greenhouse allocated to something that's not going to do anything. So I like to use these littler trays. That way, hey, I can see who's viable and who's not, and then that's who I'm going to babysit until March or late February, depending on how our weather looks. I'm not even going to lie. Kind of stinks in here right now because I've got a bucket of fish emulsion. Actually, I don't know. And you can just gently tease them apart. I've got 2 in one cell. They'll do fine. They are pretty hardy little plants. I really just need to make sure I'm putting them in the right cups with the right name tags, because I have been known to mess that up. You want to push it down. You want to make sure it's got good contact with the soil. I try to get mine in the middle of the cup, but I don't always succeed. It is what it is. I was at least glad to see that my germination on my new tomato varieties ended up being really good. So that's good. If you know the pepper situation, then you already know. That one's not centered at all. Good job, Crystal. Now this is yellow Brandywine. You can see the leaves are a little bit different than the traditional tomato leaves. That's because it's a potato leaf variety. I believe all Brandywines are potato leaf varieties, at least all the ones I've grown. This is my first time growing the yellow though, which sometimes colored tomatoes do well here and sometimes they don't. So I will be interested to see if Brandywine can handle, the yellow Brandywine can handle our climate here. I remember when I first started gardening, I was told that the hardest tomato to grow was the pink Brandywine. And I happened to come across a transplant of one because I, like most gardeners, did not start gardening from seed right away. Some things I did, but not everything. In tomatoes, if I come across an interesting transplant, even still today, if I come across something cool, I'm going to pick it up. And I saw it and I remember thinking, wow, this is supposed to be really hard to grow here. Should I give it a try? And it did amazing here. I couldn't believe it. So, you know, whatever you read on forums and stuff, just don't take it completely to heart until you try it yourself. I mean, certainly you can tamper your expectations, but at the end of the day, I couldn't get over how well the pink Brandywine grew. All I heard about was, oh, diseases and this, and it's not worth it. You're going to get like one fruit. Nah. And in fact, that's what got me hooked on growing pink tomatoes in the first place. It's the Brandywine pink. Now, because these are brand new transplants, I am going to water them in deep from the top before I put them back under the grow lights. Our weather today is way too cold for me to put them outside. Otherwise, once we're up into the 50s, they start kind of going out. My peppers, I wait a little bit longer on, but tomatoes, I need them to get as much wind as possible. That's one thing I've not been able to do successfully in my greenhouse is control for the wind. So I feel like I go around blowing on them every now and then just to simulate some wind. I've got all kinds of fans, but it just seems like I can never get the true replica of wind. But it's way too cold today, so no wind it is. Now, I have seen people only fill their cups up halfway with dirt and then plant their tomatoes and that. And then as the tomato keeps growing, they just keep adding dirt along the stem. If I was starting directly in cups, I'd probably do it that way. But in a perfect world, I would have up potted already like a week ago, but that didn't happen. These are only going to be in these cups maybe a month. We try to plan out at the end of February if we can, if the 2-week forecast looks okay. Technically, my last frost date is March 13th or 15th, something like that. But we gamble every year, and we really try to push that. So I don't really have a reason to do that. But if you know you're going to be growing in cups for a much longer time, by all means, give it a shot. Let me know if you do it that way. So I'm curious, what is your method for starting seeds? Do you use these 72 trays at all? The 72 count trays, it's kind of a love-hate thing. You either love them or you hate them. Okay. This is what I got accomplished on day 1, which is about 50 or so plants. But as you can see, I have probably close to 150 left to go. So these things are just growing super fast every day. So end of day 2, I got done about another 50 to 60 plants up potted. So that's good. But I had to stop because I ran out of dirt. I wanted to come up with a system to help me stay organized with all of this. And so what I ended up doing at first was marking my trays based off of the day that they were up potted. Because as you can see, my greenhouse is only so big and my hardening off table is only so big. And I thought I could use painter's tape to mark my trays like these were all up potted on day 1. This way they all come out to the hardening off table together, they get fertilized on the same day together, and they get rotated around my shelving units in there together. The problem is this doesn't want to stick at all. So then I went and just found extra tags. So all of these were up potted day 1. And in here, I've got some of day 2's. And for today's up potting, I didn't fill the cups up as high as before as I did on day 1, mainly because I knew I was running out of dirt. So here we are at the end of day 2. Hey y'all, it's day 3. I have to get this finished today. We're gonna be back in the 30s by tonight, which means I won't be able to work on a big table. And my greenhouse is really just too cramped. The hardest part about this is trying to prioritize who you want to get out. I try to get a few of everybody, but that's ultimately where I'm stuck at right now. I'm waiting on some shelves to get delivered to actually increase the space in my greenhouse. We are in the 50s, so these should be fine. I've read anything below 50 degrees can cause stunting, but we are in the 50s. So everything that's out here today should be just fine. And today I have out group 2 or day 2's that I had up potted, and day 1 is still back in the greenhouse. They got fertilized yesterday. These will get fertilized today. My husband did so lovingly go out yesterday and buy me some dirt. So I am good to go with this. I'm always checking for mealybugs. I do tend to get mealybugs in there. I don't have any right now so far, but almost every year I deal with aphids and mealybugs in there. And now I'm just gonna water them in real good and put them straight in my greenhouse. They do tend to be a little prone to transplant shock right now. And because it's cooler out here, I just don't want to cause too many issues. So here we are. This is all of the tomatoes that I'm growing for 2026 spring. Now, not all of these I will grow. Obviously, some I'll have to give away, but they've all been up potted. You can see I still have all of my peppers to do, which I will do this weekend. I can easily do a rough count real quick. I have 16 trays with 10 cups each. That is 160 tomato plants and 3 bonus ones down there. So 163. Now some cups do have 2 tomatoes in them. I'm running that as an experiment for my hydroponics, but for the most part, rough count, 160 tomatoes. Well guys, got it done. Took me twice as long as I anticipated. I kind of thought maybe a day, day and a half to get all those tomatoes up potted. That ended up being 3, but that's just how it goes sometimes. But it's done. It is done. Next step will be in the ground. I think this weekend I'll be able to do all of my peppers. I think they'll be ready by then, as long as I'm diligent with still feeding them and just keeping them up on the lights and making sure that they're, warm. So hopefully this weekend I'll get them done, and then everything else is just super easy after that. So, well, thank you all for hanging out with me today. If you like this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. And if you're into gardening and homesteading content, I encourage you to subscribe. And until next time, stay blessed.